The Prophet of the Heart, Jeremiah's Journey. Long ago, in a quiet village called Anathoth, lived a young man named Jeremiah. He was shy and liked to keep to himself, but God had a big plan for him. One afternoon, while Jeremiah was resting under a tree, a warm, golden light filled his mind. A voice spoke softly but clearly, saying, "Before I even formed you, I knew you. I have chosen you to be a light to the nations." Jeremiah trembled and said, "But I am only a youth. I don't know how to speak." God reached out a hand made of starlight and touched Jeremiah's lips. "Do not be afraid," the voice said. "I am with you." Jeremiah traveled to the great city of Jerusalem. It was a bustling place with tall stone walls and golden towers, but the people there had forgotten to be kind. They had turned away from the light. Jeremiah stood in the middle of the crowded market, his voice ringing out stronger than he ever thought possible. "Listen," he cried. "Turn back to what is good. Love one another and follow the path of peace." He wore a simple robe, and his eyes were filled with a fiery determination to help his people find their way home. One day, God told Jeremiah to visit a workshop. Inside, an old man sat at a spinning wheel, molding a lump of wet, gray clay. Jeremiah watched closely. As the wheel spun, the clay began to wobble and collapse. It was ruined, but the potter didn't throw it away. Instead, he gathered the clay back into a ball and started again, shaping it into a beautiful new vase. "Just like this clay," the voice whispered to Jeremiah, "I can reshape the hearts of my people if they let me." But many people did not want to listen. They laughed at Jeremiah and told him to go away. To show them what would happen if they kept being cruel, Jeremiah took an old, baked clay jug to the valley outside the city. He held it high above his head for everyone to see. Then, with a sudden crash, he threw it against the jagged rocks. The jug shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. "A broken heart and a broken city are hard to fix," Jeremiah warned sadly, looking at the shards at his feet. As the years passed, Jeremiah's heart grew heavy. He saw that the people were still making bad choices, and it made him weep. He sat by the city walls at night, his face wet with tears. Because he felt the sadness of the world so deeply, people began to call him the weeping prophet. But Jeremiah wasn't crying because he was weak. He was crying because he loved his city so much and wanted them to be safe and happy again. Jeremiah knew he needed to write down the messages God gave him so they would never be forgotten. He called his best friend, a scribe named Baruch. Baruch sat at a low table with a long, tan scroll and a feather pen. As Jeremiah paced back and forth, speaking words of truth and warning, Baruch carefully inked every letter. They worked through the night, the flickering candle casting long shadows on the walls as they recorded the story for future generations. When the scroll was finished, it was taken to the king. The king sat on a throne of dark wood, wearing a heavy crown. He was very angry when he heard Jeremiah's words. He took a sharp knife and cut the scroll into strips. One by one, he tossed the pieces of the holy message into a fire pit in the middle of the room. He watched the flames turn the words into ash, thinking he could stop the truth by burning the paper. Baruch ran to Jeremiah and told him the sad news. "The king has burned the scroll," he cried. Jeremiah looked at his friend and smiled gently. "He can burn the paper, Baruch, but he cannot burn the truth." He handed Baruch a fresh, clean scroll. "Let us sit down and write it all again, and this time we will add even more words of hope." Together they began the work once more, their friendship stronger than the king's fire. Jeremiah began to talk about a wonderful day coming in the future. "The time is coming," he said, his eyes shining with joy, "when God will make a new covenant with us. It won't be written on stone tablets that can be lost or broken. Instead, God will write his laws of love directly onto our hearts. We will all know him, from the smallest child to the oldest traveler. Jeremiah pointed to his chest, showing that the most important temple was the love kept inside. One spring morning, Jeremiah saw an almond tree beginning to bloom with delicate white and pink flowers. It was the first tree to wake up after winter. He realized that even when things seemed dark and cold, God is always watching and waiting to bring new life. Jeremiah stood among the blossoms, feeling the sun on his face. He knew that even though there were hard times, hope would always bloom again, and the message of the heart would last forever.